Hey, this is Jamey with Stonemeyer Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in the City of Big Shoulders, which, as usual, I have a photo of, but not the actual game, because I played this on Board Game Arena recently. This is a combination of a stock game, a company running game, and a worker placement game. And there are a few things I want to mention that I really liked. I'll mention something that I really liked, and then I'll mention my favorite mechanism. The thing I really enjoyed about it is I love positive player interaction in games. And in this game, you can buy stocks in other people's companies that they're not just owning them, they're actually running those companies and making them better if they want to. You can buy stocks in those companies, and you benefit greatly if you buy stocks in the right companies, even if you are not the one running those companies. So I really like to see there are actually all these examples of the companies printed out up top here. I really like that. I really like that you can maybe not be so good at the worker placement, the choices that you make to run your factories, but if you pick the right people to support, the right other companies to support, you can do well and you can even win the game. I think that's really, really cool. So I love that positive player interaction. It's not my favorite mechanism because I am not great at stock games. I'm really not good at picking the winners in games like that, or even on the real life stock market. That's not my forte. However, I do love worker placement, and I really like how it evolves in this game. Basically, every round, each player, this is kind of an end of the game setup. It looks like a lot of spaces here, but every round, each player gets 3 tiles. They pick one of those tiles to put on the board, one of the tiles to remove completely from the game, and the other to put back in the discard pile, which I think gets shuffled up again. It happened virtually on Board Game Arena. I'm not exactly sure, but I think that's the point of it. And at the beginning of the game, you do this at the beginning of each of the 5 rounds. You have some basic worker placement action spots out here, but the tiles you select also become worker placement action spots corresponding to your player color. You can see here. So I was the red player. At the end of the game, I had 5 of those tiles out there, so 5 possible worker placement spots. And throughout the game, during the worker placement phase, any player could place their worker on there. If they placed a worker on one of my tiles, I could potentially get a benefit from them doing so. So you want to pick tiles that are appealing to you and to other players. But I also really like just how this scales up. So at the beginning of the game, you only have the basic worker placement spots, and you add 1 column, essentially, of 1 tile per player. And so you don't have a lot of choices, which is good, because early on in the game, you're kind of getting your footing. You're deciding what you want to do. And then by the end of the game, you want a lot of different options. You understand the game better at that point, and you want those options to better your company, your decisions, and your factories. So I really like that the way it scales up. It reminds me a lot of Lords of Waterdeep, but with more buildings, more worker placement spots. In Lords of Waterdeep, you can also, one of the actions you can take is to build a building, build a structure, and it becomes a new worker placement spot for other players to use. And so the game starts off very simply, but you add a lot of variation and growth as the game progresses. So that is also my favorite mechanism in the City of Big Shoulders. If you have a different favorite mechanism in this game, or something that you've noticed about these mechanisms I've already mentioned, I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Or if either of these mechanisms, the positive player interaction of owning stocks of other players, and the scaling of worker placement throughout the game using tile placement, if you can think of other games that do that, I'd love to hear your thoughts about them in the comments as well. Thanks.